When Bart and Krista Halderson vanished, no one suspected their son Chandler could be at the center of it all. But as police dug deeper into their disappearance, they began to uncover an elaborate web of lies and deceit that led them to the couple's dismembered remains and a killer no one saw coming. You're going to remember this story for a long time, especially if you have kids. Let's get into it. Hey, it is so good to see you. I'm Amy, and this is True Crime Recaps. The first thing you need to know is that 23-year-old Chandler Halderson was a master of deception long before his parents disappeared on July 1st, 2021. The first thread in his web of lies started as a half-truth. After flunking out of Madison Technical College in Wisconsin in 2018, he pretended he was still attending classes online. What was he doing instead? Playing video games, mostly, while his parents kept giving him money for tuition, of course. Now, the next lie was a little bigger. He told his parents he got a paid internship with the American Family Insurance Company, which honestly seems kind of like a weird thing to lie about, but okay. The thing was, even though he was supposedly working, he never had money, ever. When his parents asked him why he wasn't getting paid, he blamed it on an issue with payroll. Then it turned into an issue with getting his bank account set up for direct deposit. The money never showed up in his account. When they started asking more questions, he had yet another lie handy. His paychecks were piling up for so long that now the deposit was large enough to flag the bank's system as suspicious. So that meant he had to wait for the bank to investigate the source of the deposit before he could finally start collecting his pay. Throughout this entire period, his unsuspecting parents believed he was working online round the clock, even though he didn't actually have any money to show for it, and he was still living in his childhood bedroom at home. To maintain appearances with his dad, Bart, who was also working from home as an accountant, Chandler woke up early every morning so he could go to virtual work meetings. In reality, of course, he wasn't doing much of anything. His work time had more to do with his video game addiction than any kind of actual job. And his fake internship with the insurance company was just the tip of the iceberg. He also told his parents he was a volunteer search and rescue diver for the Madison Police Department, but they didn't even have a dive team. And if they did, they sure weren't asking civilians to help out. But as far as his family knew, there was no reason not to believe him, so they proudly told everyone what their accomplished, amazing son was doing in his spare time. His lies were landing so well, he was really, getting into the swing of it, and his stories got more and more elaborate. Eventually, he came up with the biggest lie of all. Elon Musk's company, SpaceX, had offered him a job. Now, he told them, his parents, that he was planning to move to Florida with his girlfriend as soon as they found a house. Now, I know what you're thinking. There was a girlfriend? This guy had a freaking girlfriend? Yeah, he did. And he told her many of the same stories. Like his parents, Krista and Bart, she fully believed Chandler had this bright future ahead of him, and she was completely on board to love and support him along the way. But as the deadline for the imaginary big move to Florida got closer, he realized, holy shiznay, I have to find a good reason to call this off, and you won't believe what he came up with. He dreamed up a severe fake head injury, and he told everyone the doctor had diagnosed him with a brain bleed. Now, I don't know how many episodes of Grey's Anatomy he had to watch to put this whole thing together, but he claimed that this head injury was causing all manner of problems for him. Everything from memory loss to nerve damage in his legs. According to Chandler, his injury made it dangerous to fly. You guys. Therefore, relocating from Wisconsin to Florida would be impossible. Could he have rented a car and driven there? Of course, but we're not dealing with reality here. His story was there was no way he could accept the SpaceX job now. He had to turn it down. By now, his parents were starting to catch on, and Bart had a lot of questions. When he pressed his son to explain why he hadn't graduated from community college after 3 years, Chandler handed over a series of official-looking emails between him and the school faculty. He actually put together an email chain to make it look like he was arguing with the administration. You know what I mean? Like he was trying to get to the bottom of what was going on with his transcripts. But then on July 1st, 2021, his dad called the college posing as Chandler, his son, so he could get some information and hopefully straighten the whole thing out. And that 15-minute phone call led to a double murder. You've got to hear a quick clip from that conversation.
I don't see that you earned a certificate. IT classes, right? I don't see that you were in a program. Said I don't see that you were admitted in any program.
Mm-hmm. Does the internship from the spring show up in there?
No.
Do you have an Alyssa Brandt that works in that area or anywhere in the campus?
No. All the Brandts. There's no Alyssa.
Okay. How about, does Daniel Spice still work there?
No. It's not, so no.
It is mind-boggling to think of the amount of time and effort that Chandler put into creating those fake emails, just trying to make sure they looked legit. If he would have put as much time into his classes and, I don't know, maybe a freaking job search, maybe he could have gotten work with SpaceX. I mean, probably not. Let's be real. But maybe. As it is, he spent hours arguing back and forth with himself through different email accounts trying to pull it off. I mean, we are talking about an obsessive amount of effort to cover up his lies. And that's all a backstory for what comes next. Can you imagine how Bart must have felt realizing that Chandler was conning him? Because by the time that call was over, he saw his son in an entirely different light, a much darker one. When he hung up, he confronted him about all the lies, and his own son shot him in the back of the head. Killing Bart was kind of like the SpaceX lie. He'd gone too far, so he needed to come up with a plan to get away with it. So he texted his mother while she was on her way home and asked her to pick up some soda to buy himself some time. And less than an hour later, when she walked in the door, he shot and killed her too. After the murders, Chandler dismembered their bodies and scattered the remains in a few isolated spots. And then 6 days later, when he felt confident that he disposed of his parents completely, he reported them missing. A day later, on July 8th, he doubled down and he did a phone interview with a local reporter from News 3. Now, he would only agree to doing it over the phone because he didn't want to show his face. Guess why? You've got to hear this pack of lies he came up with.
So my last message I got from them, they were going to White Lake for the 4th of July. There's some festivities that go around there, better drink prices at bars, stuff like that for, White Lake, Wisconsin. Mm-hmm. Other than that, their plan, or to my knowledge, they're going to Langlade County to a cabin, their cabin. Along the way, they could have stopped many places. I wouldn't know all of them. But it's about 3 hours north of Madison or Dane County.
And they left then a week ago today on the 1st? Friday
morning.
So that would have been the 2nd, right, of July when they left. And that's the last you'd heard of them?
Yes, it is.
And then was it yesterday that you called the sheriff's office, or someone with your family called the sheriff's office just to...
I go back on that. I actually got a text from them on Sunday telling me they were going to White Lake.
Okay.
I don't know when the text was sent because of reception issues that they would have, and they usually turn their phone off because of pay for roaming.
Yeah.
It could have been whenever they sent that message that they made it safely, and they're going to White Lake for the 4th.
Okay.
So.
Yeah. So it was probably the last couple of days that you started to get nervous then. Is there people, we see comments, people say, are they up north? Is the cell service bad? Could they, just not be able to get a hold of? Is there anything that you feel like is kind of going on here that leads you to be a little bit more nervous that that's not the case?
My aunt went up there and was able to call me while she was at the cabin.
Okay.
So she was able to call me. I don't know what provider she's using, but U.S. Cellular would take up most of Wisconsin. So like they'd be able to call today because this weekend it was packed. I get that, packed. Maybe the weather wasn't great for messaging. Yeah. So who knows?
And then the other thing I wanted to ask you about was a lot of the comments, people were concerned or kind of wanted some clarification about the vehicle, right? Because the reports from the sheriff's office say they didn't have a car or there wasn't a car with them.
They were picked up by their friends, who I never got the name of. And I assumed it was someone I was aware of, like the close neighbors of theirs up the street or their best friends down on the east side. So that's what I assumed. I never really asked any further into it. And so they got picked up and they all went up there by like another couple.
Picked up here?
Yeah, here at my house.
Okay.
Before I woke up, they had everything packed up.
Jeez. And you don't know who they're... Jeez.
That's... I mean, that has happened before where they just kind of head out before I leave or I wake up. You know, I'm a heavy sleeper. I'm on a schedule. I wake up at 6 to feed the dogs and they were out before 6. Beat the rush to get to the north.
Okay, so that text he mentioned in the interview, he sent that to himself from his mother's phone. And when the cops traced its location, they realized it came from inside the house. And later, they found his parents' IDs and phones wrapped in paper towels and tinfoil and hidden in a pair of bloody shoes underneath a shelf in the garage. And that's not all. That's where he also hid the bloody axe and pruning shears he used to chop them up. But I'm getting ahead of myself. After Chandler did that interview with the local news, word started to get around the small town of Windsor, Wisconsin, and people started calling in tips. See, Chandler didn't cover his tracks as well as he thought he did. He had taken his parents' car out to his girlfriend's family's lake cabin, and their neighbors spotted him skulking around the tree line nearby. He also paid a visit to the Wisconsin River with a backpack, and his neighbors spotted him by a pond near his house after dark. They also told police they smelled something awful burning at the Halderson house the week before Bart and Krista were reported missing. As police followed up on these leads, they realized they weren't working a missing persons investigation. They were investigating a double murder. His mother's legs, they found those in a field near the Wisconsin River. His father's torso, they found that buried under some brush in the woods. And the rifle he used as a murder weapon was tossed nearby. It turned out he actually got that a couple of weeks earlier as a gift from an ex-military buddy he met playing video games online. Inside a water tank, they found a pair of bloody scissors, a saw blade, and a pair of bolt cutters. And in the family fireplace, they discovered 200 bone fragments from their knees, arms, fingers, and teeth. They realized that Chandler burned his parents' heads in the fireplace. So now that they had more than enough proof to prove he was lying, they weren't wasting any time. He was arrested on July 11th, but just like you'd expect, he did everything he could to talk his way out of the cuffs. But these detectives weren't like his trusting parents. They weren't buying his BS. And eventually he came clean. But get this. He actually said, "I don't feel bad for what I did." It took about 2 hours for the jury to decide he was guilty and give him life behind bars, and he didn't react when he heard that verdict. In the end, the most baffling part of this case is that he could have directed all the energy he was using to keep these different lies going, and he could have put that energy into something positive. He had the potential to be the man he wanted everyone to think he was, but his priorities were so seriously twisted, it ended up murdering 2 people and destroying all these people's lives. Mind-boggling. Thank you for spending some time with me today. If you like getting all the crime in half the time, it would mean so much to us if you hit subscribe and the bell to make this a regular thing. Chris and I are here with new recaps 3 times a week. And remember to come back on Wednesday when we talk about perfect couples who are far from perfect, like murdery. Not perfect. Believe me, these people will make you and your significant other look like a rom-com. Until then, take care.